Hey there, I'm Trey.
Hey,
Nice to meet you.
how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good, great to meet you.
Well, I always love hearing cast and crew giving advice to the UT students about the best thing that you can do to stay in this business, because it almost always involves keep making stuff. You just talked about something that really resonates with me, and that is just because you make something doesn't mean you have to show anybody, but there's also some things that you never get out there that there's maybe a little bit of regret. Do you have that, something that you've done in the past, you're like, I kind of wish I'd actually put that out there in retrospect?
Man, I have a hard drive that when I was in high school, I had this like mockumentary that I made, and a couple buddies were over, and it was on this external drive, and the external drive fell on the floor and broke, and it's just gone. And that was, I think about that sometimes. I think about that project. It's like a piece of my heart that's like gone, you know? So definitely, I mean, there are things that, you know, that you make that you wish people saw, and then there's things you make that you're very grateful nobody saw.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's important to understand what you just talked about. Was there a point where you realized that it's okay to make something and not show it to anybody that kind of allowed you to further evolve, like learning that lesson?
Yeah, well, I think stand-up taught me a lot of that, you know, and a lot of what I learned in stand-up was, you know, you can try a joke 8 times and it might not work until that 8th time, that 9th time, that 10th time, and then all of a sudden it's one of your best bits, but it just took you a while to figure it out and figure out what it was. And I think the same thing can happen with filmmaking, and the same thing can happen with making shorts and doing all that kind of thing, where there were plenty of shorts I made that I just never put online, I never really did much with, but I learned so much making them, and I go, okay, like, so I just made something, took a lot of time, took my personal monies when I was like just running around trying to figure out how to make any money to just shoot something. But then you kind of look at it and you say, just because I did all that doesn't mean that I gotta broadcast it. It could have just been for me, because sometimes, you know, I think a lot of my favorite filmmakers say, make the film you'd want to see, right? And I think in the creative process, you can make something that's actually just for you to see how you make something, and then you can kind of put it aside and then take what you learned, you know? So I'd make something and I have like 10 minutes, and I go, man, these 2 minutes really worked. Why did they work? And then I kind of try to make those 2 minutes, you know, go longer on my next thing. I go, okay, I like the way that was shot. I like the timing of that. I like this. I like that. Now let me do that for, you know, a whole thing. Let me try to sustain that. So it's, you know, you never make anything, and it's never a failure, because there's always something you kind of get out of it.
Well, that's interesting you said 2 minutes out of 10, because I talk with a lot of stand-up comedians, so I'm glad you just mentioned that. I figured you might. A lot of stand-up comedians say you'll come up with 10 ideas and you're maybe using 1 or 2 of those. So the creative process, that 10 to 20% creative process, exists in filmmaking also, huh?
I think so. I think it does, and I think things are only more, I mean, you can shoot something on your iPhone. You know what I mean? Some of the people who I find to be the funniest are on TikTok, and they're friggin' movie stars, you know, and they're just doing stuff on their phone, and I'm like watching some of them and I'm like, wow, like, have you seen this kid Leo Gonzalez? Like, I saw him on TikTok, I was like, what? This guy is like a movie star. He's so funny, and he's just messing around on his phone and he's trying to make it. So you know, the barrier of entry is so much, you know, easier on a level, but I think the ability to have restraint and the ability to figure out what your taste is before you ask everyone to look at you is the thing that's going to be a challenge for a lot of people, because it's really important to kind of feel like, oh, okay, like, I think I know what I want to say, I think I know how I want to say it, I think I know how I want to play. It doesn't have to be important, it could be silly, it could be like whatever, but the ability to have some restraint and kind of think, okay, like, what could this actually feel like, and where it feels like what I really want to do, that's exciting to me.
So this particular story, this series, is based on your childhood, but it's also a collective experience of what others were going through around that time. Some of those are your stories, some of those are others. Do you have a favorite story that somebody else contributed, without giving away too much, from getting to make this series?
Well, yeah, you know, we had a lot of people bringing in their middle school stories, and we have one episode that really makes me laugh. Not my story, but one of our writers' stories. I'll just say it was about what it took for him to make the basketball team in his school, and it's a really crazy, it's a really just funny setup, and we just got a lot of stuff like that, you know, a lot of stuff from those middle school stories that really filter through all the characters in the show. Yeah.
I ask a lot of comedians this, so I guess I'm going to close by asking you this as well. I love stand-up comedy. I just love comedy in general. What do you love about getting to make people laugh for a living?
I think these days my favorite piece of it is that it's happening in person, that we get to be in a room together, and that's, with everything just as isolated and as online as it is, to be in a room with people for an hour, we're looking at each other, we all came out, we all put on our shoes, we all made an effort to connect. That's kind of the best. That's the best,
Well, big fan of your work. Thank you so much for the time. Can't wait to check this series out too.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.